production numbers, not just at Ford, not just on the Ford Maverick, but production numbers on, of course, all the important, really hot, sought after Ford models and just production numbers in general. So this is a big don't be fooled because, well, we don't want you being fooled in either not buying or incorrectly buying a vehicle in 2023. So what do 2022 production numbers, sales numbers, yard inventory numbers, what does that all mean? Should we buy? Should we not buy? You'll follow some channels, even sometimes on the same channel. At one moment, it's saying, buy right now. It's the best time of the year. And then another moment, it's saying, don't buy. Wait, 6 months, or sometimes, wait years. Well, we're really going to cover what's going on. And of course, we will talk about that Ford Maverick that everyone loves. We'll talk about our Bronco because Marie had a bit of trouble, considerable trouble with the Bronco.
This weekend we had an adventure.
Yeah, we had an adventure, and Marie will talk about a story that in a lot of cases is the type of story where people will have a problem and certain types of people will run to a forum before really looking into things, or just, getting frustrated, running to a forum and saying, don't ever buy a Bronco. Well, we're here to tell you that we've got a happy ending to that Bronco story because we resolved the problem ourselves. And that's kind of interesting. So we'll also talk about recalls and what they can mean. Big, huge, upcoming, very probable upcoming recall in the Toyota RAV4 Prime. So we've got a little Toyota talk because, well, I just like everything that's EV. I find it interesting. It's new. It's worth covering. So let's just put the pedal to the metal, get right to it, and start right up. Get a little backup. We got the new office here. So we got the backup TV. The camera is not quite right, and that's part of our technical issues. We were getting this office ready, last night, Saturday, and even right before this live. So I do want to talk about production numbers. It's going to be a quick review of everything, and we're going to leave all the random stuff for the end of the video. So tonight we are going to stay actually on track. So let's just get ahead and first start, I don't want to leave at a cliffhanger nail biter. Marie, why don't you tell us about your story and your experience with the Bronco? Well, both of us, we were there, but I'll let her tell you all about it. She suffered more than I did.
Yes, this weekend we went to a friend. And finally, when we were driving, I was like, oh, it's cold in the back of my head. It's like a window is open, but I look and no window were open.
Horribly noisy.
Yeah, noisy, and I was checking the roof. Do we clip it right? It was clipped, it's not the roof. I need to put my hoodie on because it was really, really cold. And finally, we saw that the window of the rear door, when I opened it to put a bag on the floor, the door was closed.
Yeah,
was
the
closed,
door was
right?
closed.
Yeah. And it's the window that was not on the underneath the how do you call that?
The rubber trim lining. So there's the top, and then part of the top and on the frame there's this kind of rubber trim that the window needs to go over, so that it's not just screaming in your ear, which this really was screaming. This is the type of situation loud enough that would be fair if someone ran on and mentioned on all the forums, don't buy a Ford Bronco, it's total trash, junk. But, we're not the type that want to mislead you. So we don't want to mislead you when it comes to buying. We don't want to tell people to buy when it's not a time to buy. And we certainly don't want to tell people not to buy when it's, so we want to take care of everyone. We don't want to just, have flash statements that get us, several 100,000 views. We want to get the story right. So it wasn't tucking into that trim, right?
Yeah, the door was fully closed, but the window was outside the trim. So when I looked, I see a little light that can come in the vehicle because it was a space between the two of them. So the wind was going in the car a lot.
Yeah.
But
And
it was easy to fix. We
how did
just
we
need
fix
to open the door and close it back, and this time it went at the right place of the rubber.
hold on, she's forgetting a real important step, guys. Now this is going to be some of the best advice I've ever given. Step one, I listened to the wife. She said, well, if you pull over, maybe we can, maybe we can just close the door properly. And I had it on my side, and I knew I had closed my door properly. So the typical guy thing would be, you did a quick little analysis. I do recall, I double checked. I know my door is closed properly, and in the dash, it does not say a door is open. So logically, there's no door that's open. I've got my own experiences with the vehicle telling me that there's no door open. And I could have just not listened to her and given her, a really bad ride, a bad time. But step one, guys, listen to your wife. Then we did those other steps.
Yeah, because it was icy outside, so maybe that's why the window doesn't came at the right place of the rubber.
In the summer, the Mustang does it in the summer quite often. And in
Mhm.
that case, sometimes it's just a programming issue, or sometimes when you open the door, it doesn't go down. So if you go to close it again, it's going to be on the outside of that rubber trim, and a lot of air. You're going to hear whistling and sniffling, and it's easy to think, oh, Mustang GT, don't ever buy a Mustang GT. Who would want all that power and amazing sound for an incredible price? Let's go on a forum and blast it. But we just open the door, and then, oh, now the window's gone down, and then close it. So sometimes in the case of the Mustang, I've had actually a few Mustangs. I've had a lot of Mustangs, but I've had this happen on a few of my convertibles. So so that completes the story for you.
Yeah.
So
So an easy fix.
so we're listening to our viewers saying, Johnny, when you get on a topic, try not to go all over the place. It's just I've got so much information to share, and I really do have a desire to want to share it with you all to make sure you don't get fooled and that you're protected. But sometimes I got to learn to put the pedal to the metal a little better and stay on topic. So let's now cover Ford Maverick, Ford Bronco, all those hot Ford models. Let's cover what's really going on, or what has gone down in 2022, those production numbers, and what they can mean for production numbers, like what we can expect for 2023s. Are you ever going to get a Bronco? Are you ever going to get a Maverick? Let's talk about that. But then let's, if there's time, also talk about, in general, the market as a whole. Is it a good time to buy a market? Would I lease? Would I buy? We're going to be giving some, specialty insider talk in regards to that. Marie was a financial director at a Toyota dealership. And well, I've been in the automobile industry now, working in the automobile industry for 10 years. And I have been, and actually, before that, I sold used vehicles in my part-time, because a good weekend for me was going and selling used vehicles. That was a fun hobby to do when during the week I was a manager at a university, a manager of residences, so of young people, and doing the whole discipline and whatnot. So production numbers, I'm going to let you actually try to cover them so I can switch this screen, because it's just bothering me quite a bit in the background. So let's start with talking about, let's put a nice little background photo here. Love to do a bit of this here. So production numbers on the Maverick and the Bronco. What do we got? Well, the Maverick, actually, I'm surprised by how many were built, because in the end, I thought we'd get about 80,000 built. And this would have then meant that for 2023, we could expect about 80, maybe a little more than 80,000, because Ford did cut off taking in orders on the Ford Maverick around the 80,000 mark after only 4 days being for sale in the United States. And in the end, I do want to find the exact numbers. I'm going to play it off. I'm going to come back to that. But in the end, they actually did quite a bit more. So for the Maverick, I do expect quite a bit more production, but not the ones we actually want. We want hybrids. And I think Ford, I'm quite positive, Ford cut production off on the Maverick, or they cut taking in orders on the Maverick, because they knew that they're mostly, almost 75% of the time getting a hybrid order, and that they were out of what everybody wants. And that's why Ford has hinted that dealers will get some EcoBoost production. And it's why I actually think that we could actually see about 140 to 160,000 Mavericks built in 2023. But EcoBoost, and this is why in previous videos I've been saying switching to the EcoBoost is going to be a way to get your Maverick. There is going to be production. There are going to be Mavericks on yards, and this should help, and we'll talk more about this at the end, but this should actually help all this wild over MSRP go down. Now, a lot of videos on the internet, have been saying, oh, MSRP, over MSRP, that's done with because inventory is going up. Well, in a lot of places, it hasn't happened yet. I'm going to talk about why. I'm going to talk what good dealers will do and what smart dealers should do, especially in the used. And I'm going to conclude with saying, whether you should buy now or not. And really that's conditional. So it's based on some important variables to take into play, because right now can be a very good time to buy, but under certain conditions. So we'll talk about that more in just a moment. Ford Bronco, big, huge surprise for Ford Bronco production numbers. They built about 139,000. And if someone in the comments has the production numbers right in front of them, because I'm stuck on the monthly, it's not giving me the whole year. I'm sorry, that's actually on the camera phone that I'm currently using. I will find it before the end of the show. But the Bronco for the year made an incredible amount of Broncos. So if you know of someone who hasn't gotten their Bronco yet and they've been waiting 2 years, a lot of that has to do with adding multiple constraints on top of it. So going soft top is still a great way to move things along. A lot of people took wild track. Ford can make about 23% of all Broncos can be wild track, not more. So sometimes a good thing can be adding Sasquatch to another package. Now, throughout the last 2 years, Ford has always talked about, avoid the 2.7 liter. I've actually locally had a lot of good luck with 2.7 liter V6s on models and even the hitch. But these were soft tops. Then as soon as the hard top was added to the exact same package, well, then it doubled the time, but it did show up. But the longest wait time certainly has been for the wild track. That is absolutely what I've noticed. But something very cool, like an outer bank Sasquatch, like we have, quick, fast. Of course, what dealer you order for is important as well. Now, another important thing is, a very cool model, soft top, a Badlands. And you don't have to Sasquatch it. Those 34-inch tires are going to do the trick. You had one all winter. You drove it through the winter. Mm-hmm. And on the BF Goodrich KO2 tires, they did a great job. And I've been driving, this is now my second winter with a Bronco. So now in the snowstorms, I've been driving like a little wild when there's a bit of snow on the ground. I love drifting this thing in the snow. And it drifts amazingly in the snow. And because I never think to turn off the anti-skid and all the stability control and advanced track, I don't turn that stuff off because I just happen to have fun. I'm in a corner, I'm like, why not give it some extra gas? Go off on a drift. The vehicle lets me have about 1 second of fun. I put it sideways and it brings itself back. I don't have to do very much now. Naturally, I've got the reflex. I'm going one direction, I turn the other, and it straightens out. But there have been times where I did not mean to slide across the road and the vehicle worked to bring itself back, braking certain tires, accelerating other tires. Ford's advanced track system is incredible. This video isn't going to be all about Ford. I promised you a little bit of Toyota talk, and we'll actually pretty major news about power cable issues. Probably going to lead to a recall, and protect yourself against dealers because some people are having to pay for these cables out of pocket. But we'll really dive into that for 2-3 minutes in this video, but we will definitely conclude the video with whether you should buy now, should you lease, should you buy, or should you not buy anything at all. Well, I'll get into detail with that in the Don't Be Fooled section. Now, Marie, while I do a little paperwork here, you could say, would you be capable of answering any questions, saying hi to anyone?
Yeah, for now we don't have a question that I saw, but I see a lot of people are talking about the Maverick, so yeah, that's the hot subject today. Yeah, and some people were talking about the new office. Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, it's not finished yet. Some say that the sound is not that good. It's the same mic as we use normally,
Yeah.
but we didn't finish to put the sound deadening. We need more, and we doesn't have more, so we need to fix that. So we're sorry for tonight. We don't have all our wires covered, so we needed to switch the office because everything was in that new room, and we'll continue the work this week to be ready for next weekend. So we're really sorry on that one. We're thinking that it was almost done, but we need to add some new stuff again.
Yeah, and surprisingly, we now have a lot more sound deadening in this office at the moment than we
Than
did
the
in the
other one.
previous office. So it's all location. We're sorry. We'll get it worked out. We'll either go back to the old office, or we will find a solution for that.
Yeah, it's almost empty. Maybe we'll add some furniture so it will help with the sound.
Okay, so let's talk about some Ford news, market news, and then get to that big subject, the don't be fooled. Is it a good time to buy? That's a big question for us. Why don't you tell them about our F-150 Lightning and how and why we're not sure if we're going to be able to take that. I mentioned in a previous video that our Raptor we bought in October is now worth $10,000 less. And that's based on the selling price at auction. And unfortunately, some dealers that aren't smart enough to do so, they're leaving their prices rather quite high. You think of Carvana, they're going out of business. They're bankrupt. And they're still not drastically lower. They're barely lowering their prices. They need to drastically lower their prices because the used market, the values have drastically gone down. We lost 10,000 over 3 months. And the Bronco just had it evaluated today and looked at the historic values selling at auction, $11,000 over 3 months. So 3 months ago, I'd have gotten $11,000 more for my Bronco. So we paid 67 Canadian for it, and now it's worth 56 on trade. So why don't you tell them a little bit about what result that might give?
Yeah, because of the price that goes down, we're not sure if we will go with the Lightning. And at the same time, John told me that he really loves the Raptor, so I think it's his new baby now. He don't want to let him go yet. It's too soon. You need to use it more to be able to do that. But our choice will still be a truck because we need to be able to pull a trailer with Sea-Doos on it. So we have the Mustang too, but for the summer we won't be able to pull the Sea-Doos with the Mustang. We won't do it anyway. So yeah, we'll probably keep the Raptor, and at the same time we didn't have that much of mileage on the Bronco, so maybe we'll keep it for a few more rides.
But the Bronco, when you think about it, if you currently own a Bronco and you originally bought it thinking maybe I'll make a lot of money with it or whatever, this isn't bad news. Owning it for 13 months based on the price we paid and what we would get for it on trade, which if we sold it ourselves, we'd get about an extra 4. So that means if we sold it ourselves, 13 months of driving it would have cost us 7,000 Canadian. That's pretty good. That's very good depreciation based on the current market, and historically that's pretty darn good. So I'm not disappointed in the Bronco in that sense whatsoever, and we love the style, like Marie said. So to plug in a little bit of news for this, talking about style, year 2024 for the Bronco, we can probably expect a refresh for 2024. What does a refresh mean? It means that you get a slightly different look. Usually they'll either change the lights, doubt it on the Bronco, but the grills, probably get different grills, might get different fenders. This is very popular. So the refresh is probably going to be light. Kind of like when we went from, the 2015 to 2017 styled Mustang to the 2018. A lot of people had to ask, what's the difference? Well, there's a few small differences. In the major refresh, big news for the Bronco, Ford Authority was thinking 2024 for a refresh. That's what they called last August. They claimed that. That's what they're thinking it's going to be. Now, I always thought it would be actually at about the 3 or 4 year mark because I figured the model would get changed completely on the 6 to maximum 8 year mark. Now, to my very big surprise, Auto Forecast Solutions is actually calling for the next generation ICE version, internal combustion engine, for the Ford Bronco to arrive as a 2030 model. I have to get used to saying that. It's too far in the future. 2030. So 2030, that means 9 years on the same look. Now that is pretty rare. Ford's usually refreshing these on the 5th, 6th, maximum 7th year mark. Now, did you have any did you have a question pop up?
We have 3 questions about almost the same subject, so I guess it's a good thing that we speak about it. So, how many, do you know yet how many people have changed from an hybrid to an EcoBoost with the Maverick? Do you have numbers?
I don't have numbers, but well, I have local numbers, and I can say that, heck, it's not 10%.
Okay, it's not that much.
It's not 10%. I had 2 across. No, actually, it's 10%. I'd say just under 10%, at least locally, but I don't have any global. And I'll say global, just North American. I don't have numbers across all of North America, but locally, I've had 2 personally, and I can say as an entire dealership, it's it's somewhere between as low as 5% and absolutely not any higher than 10%. So some people have made the switch, and it wasn't at a rate that would worry me about the switch ever exceeding what can actually be built for EcoBoost. I'm actually expecting a ton of EcoBoosts being built. I think Ford is going to be able to make 100 and minimum. You never know how badly things could go for 2023, but let's hope for things to be as good as they are now, or as good in 2022, or better. So I'm thinking minimum 120,000 Mavericks built to 160,000 Mavericks. They had success with the Bronco. They built 139,000 Broncos for 2022, and not that many Rangers because, well, they switched production at the factory. They cut down Ranger production, and they successfully increased and boosted Bronco production, even though it was a relatively new product. It was at the same place that the Maverick is at now. And Ford, hush hush, has been telling dealers, hey, we're going to take care of you. They don't say it in this way. I'm putting a little acting into this, bad acting, but if I were saying it as a joke, I'd say, hey guys, don't cry, don't worry, stop getting wrinkles and losing your hair. We will produce you more Mavericks. We know people are like charging the palace and breaking down the castle doors and wanting to break down into your dealers because they're upset about this whole Maverick situation. But don't worry, we will make you more. And the result is they're going to cut down Bronco Sport production. And I believe they're going to do that successfully. I strongly believe that's going to be done successfully.
Good. And another question about that, do we get an email from Ford about the switch going through when you switch from a hybrid to EcoBoost?
Your dealer can provide you with a proof that that was done correctly and accepted. So okay. I wouldn't, here in Canada, we almost never get any emails from Ford. Only a few clients get an occasional email. I don't know what's going on. Ford Canada, I know they got a lot of laid off employees, and as a result, I wish the communication was a lot better. But I don't think there's enough employees to do that. If I'm not mistaken, they laid off something like 3,000 of the 8,000 white collars at Ford that got laid off. If I'm not mistaken, 3,000 of them were from Canada. So the proportion should have been 10% based on work volume, sales volumes, and whatnot, but it was far more than that, which, so if you're American and you work at Ford, you can be thankful for that. But if you're a Canadian and you work at Ford and you unfortunately lost your job, well, it wasn't cut evenly. And the service that we're getting isn't even either. So I get a lot of, as a Canadian dealer, I get a lot of questions like, hey, I'm really stressed. I haven't gotten that email that everyone seems to get. Well, that's because most of the people on the forums are, you know, Americans, unless you join a Canadian only Maverick forum or Bronco forum. But why would you want to do that? You know, more intel is better, and that's why we got to grow this community. So please do hit that like button, subscribe, and share this to someone that might need the information. Now I'm going to go a little blind because I can see that you're all getting these circle glares off my glasses. We're just trying to illuminate this room without having any shade or any crazy lights in the TV.
Another adjustment we need to make.
Another adjustment to do. Thank you so much. You guys are really kind to us. You stick with us. So we work really hard to get you really pertinent details, important, you know, protect yourself from the dealer info. That was probably the most important video I made in 2022 was, you know, 10 steps to make sure you don't get, you know, fooled by the dealer. So they're kind of like war weapons that you need to go in and you need to be prepared. Now, some dealers, you'll never have to use any of them. They'll just give you the right service right off. But you should always be prepared, and you should know what you need to have in your tool belt to, whether you're building a house, building a vehicle, buying a vehicle, you need to have the right tools.
Good. Another question, if the people who ordered XLT for speed control, now that 23s have it, they are retracting orders to XL. If they do that, do they go behind the line of people already ordered?
Okay, that's a great question. So if I understand the question correctly, and correct me if I did not, but what you're saying is you had an XL and they're making less XLs, you know, about 12 or 15%. Off the top of my head, it was somewhere around 12 or 15%. So far more XL orders than that in the system. I think if you're an EcoBoost, you probably don't. I have this weird feeling that you don't have as much to worry about, but I don't have anything concrete to prove that. And how everything has been worded, it's that you just need to worry if you're XL. But there's missing details. But basically, yeah, in that exact situation, if you stay within your own motor and you switch to XLT, well, I think if you're hybrid, for a lot of people, it's not going to make that much of a difference because you're already constrained by the whole hybrid situation.
Okay, so you can switch between XL, XLT, and it's not, probably not that
If you're
bad.
an XLT, definitely don't go down to an XL.
Yeah, that's the question. You want to go down to an XL.
No, if you have an XLT, don't go down to an XL. It's already sold out. Especially if you're a hybrid, then you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And
that's
I'd say if you're an EcoBoost, maybe things will work out for you. It's just Ford is, based on what Ford has said, things will not work out for you even if you're an EcoBoost. So play it safe. If you want to play it safe and not risk a long wait, don't do that switch. If you're an XL and you move up to an XLT, you're going to start over at the beginning of the line, but within your priority code. So if your dealership gave you a priority code, let's say you have a priority code 10, 11, or 12, you're coming up. You know, you're an up and comer for getting built. I wouldn't want to then, you know, be, you know, I'd say if I wouldn't want to start over, and you're only going to start over within your priority code. So if you're a 10, starting back over at the end of the line of the 10s really isn't bad at all if your dealer isn't just giving out 10s, priority code 10s to just anyone. So that's a lot is going to have to do with you asking questions to your dealer and them actually being able to answer that question. Your salesman probably will not be able to answer. You need to most likely ask to speak to a manager. If anytime a sales consultant, salesperson doesn't know the answer, they should say, well, I'm going to go verify and I'll be right back. But if they just go, I don't know, and then just sit there, you have to ask to, you know, pull your Karen card and ask to speak to a manager.
Yeah, and in conclusion, you always take a little risk if you switch your order. But this one is not that much risky, but you always have a risk.
Yeah. And if anyone has found that there's been any recent memo from Ford that I somehow missed, that can happen. You just write it in the comments. We're a community here, and no one ever has all the right answers.
Thank you, Andrew Barley. So he says, keep up the good work, Johnny. I got 2 orders for Maverick and a Bronco, hopefully in February. Yeah, congratulations.
And thank you. That is very generous of you. $20, Andrew. Thank you very much. It's very generous. If we make it down to Florida, we'll be buying some coffees on you. And if we do make it to Florida, we didn't really want to take the Lightning because we would have had 10 stops of about 40 minutes.
Yeah, it will be.
When you're trying to do it all in one shot, because we would just want to drive straight down if we do it. If you're trying to drop down in one shot, that's problematic. Now I know Ridgeview right now is going to be watching this on repeat later down the road. So while you're watching this, Ridgeview, I know you can't be moderator tonight, but we wish you safe journeys. Wish you safe journeys as you head down south. Maybe we'll be able to meet up soon. If we go down, we're definitely meeting up.
Good. And we have another question here. Do you know what interest rate Ford is offering people getting their 2023 Mavericks? I guess it can always depend on US, Canada.
It should be based, it's going to be based US, Canada. But what's important to know is what was your interest rate when you ordered in September? That's the interest rate you should get. Now, they can definitely protect that. They can claim that interest rate. All they have to do is put it in the system with Ford. Do your financial demand on that interest rate. And if it didn't work, Ford is going to tell them, hey, that doesn't work. And I've even had paperwork. Person's driven away with the vehicle. And if it doesn't work, the dealership can still call their client and say, hey, look, we've got a memo here. We've got we can screenshot you the proof. Ford is saying that interest rate does not work in that situation. For example, sometimes things can get complicated. You have inventory of an F-150 coming in, and you made this sale of inventory coming in that was going to be built for October. You take down the October interest rate. The vehicle finally comes in for whatever reason 3 or 4 months later, and the interest rate, let's say, is 2% higher. And you use the October interest rate, 2 to 3% better. Paperwork could get signed and everything, but Ford is going to be like, hey, dealer, don't you remember? You can reserve or, protect an interest rate on an order. That wasn't an order. You got this individual their vehicle sooner because you could say you froze an interest rate on inventory. You can't do that. You can do it on an order and not inventory. So they're going to find out easily and quickly enough if they put the wrong interest rate. So you just need to, one of the things you need to do to not be fooled and be protected is know whether you're, reserving their inventory that was on the way or putting in an order from scratch. If you're putting in an order from scratch, you get the interest rate from the month you put that in protected. Your dealer, if they don't know how to do it, they can contact Ford. There's multiple weekly memos, but the one weekly memo on this is that we get a memo every week, and at the end of the memo it says if you have any questions, basically they don't say it, they should write, if you're a dealer that's completely lost, call this number. They politely say if you have inquiries in regards to everything, just call your basically it's kind of like what you could call a district manager or district rep, distributor, whatever you want to call it. The numbers are there. You just need to call and say, hey, in the system, how do I protect a price? How do I protect an interest rate? It's simple stuff. You just have to be inquisitive.
Okay. And somebody wants to know if we have a Canadian constraint list. Sorry for my pronunciation. Because this person can only find the American one. So do we have a list in Canada?
A Canadian constraint list? Yeah. Unfortunately, not really, and nothing that's just very direct. I do get ratios like on the Bronco. I'll be told, it's, let's say 23% for the wild track. Crew cab F-150 is 97% of production. I get those, but they rarely will say these are the things constrained specifically for this model. And when I do get them, because I sometimes do get them, but they're identical to the US. So, plastic bed liner on an F-150 or spray and bed liner on an F-150 is going to cause you delays. It's going to be the case in the States as well as Canada too.
Mm-hmm. The next one, I really love the question. Thank you for asking it, Jennifer. So with the car market crashing, should I wait to buy a used Maverick for under 20K? That's a good question with the market. Thank you so much.
That is a good question, and that's a perfect reflection. You know, if you're watching YouTube videos, you're gonna have people telling you like, "Just wait, the deals are gonna be incredible," and you know they don't say it in that voice, obviously, but I feel like it's almost in like that promotional marketing voice, because here's the thing: you go back 4 months ago, everyone was saying, "Wait 2 months, 3 months, 4 months." And in the end, what happened? Now they're going, don't buy, don't buy. You know, the prices didn't change enough. That all depends on the tools you use to get the right deal. Right now can be an amazing time to buy a vehicle. And I really do not expect Mavericks to drop drastically. For that to happen, the market needs to, two things need to happen. The market needs to be flooded, and enough dealers have to be not hard-headed. No, because dealers can choose to be museums. They can collect cars just like any individual. They can be like these rich billionaires that have 300 vehicles in their, garage, if you want to call it that. They can do that if they want. Guess what? Carvana has been doing exactly that. The writing is, on the wall. They're going bankrupt. They have major bankruptcy issues. They bought vehicles. They helped. They're part. And I'm not going to shed a tear for them. I shed a tear for you if you work for Carvana, but I won't shed a tear for the business model itself, because the business model, as well as a few others, is what drove the market up. They bought vehicles for really high prices because they wanted to get them. Like, they wanted to be the type of corporation that is gonna, bite off, control the price of things by just trying to monopolize the supply. So they they monopolized a bit of the supply, a lot of the supply. They bought a lot of what was available for really high prices, and then they sold them. They offered them for really high prices, and they made good money. However, because they had the supply, they controlled the supply. And this is the danger of any time where you only have one, two, or three corporations, mostly controlling anything. At first, they'll be real nice and they'll undercut everyone. They'll clear out all the mom and pop shops. And once all the mom and pop shops are gone, then they charge whatever the heck they want to charge. Part of that, overall process of kind of becoming the ultimate power, one of the ultimate powers, was buying things at high prices that, other mom and pop shops were like, that's too much risk. But they figured they could hold that risk on for long enough that it wouldn't matter, that eventually they'd control enough of the market that it would be that they could say, this is just the price that it's going to be. Now, the problem is interest rates went up much higher. So what they didn't plan on is demand going down. Demand for a used vehicle has gone down because of these high interest rates.
I'm sorry, I need to go. Lily is eating the sound deadening.
Yeah, Lily's eating a bit of our sound deadening. So with interest rates going up, demand going down, there isn't, a flood in the market, but supply most certainly has. So the issue is that supply is not, the market's not flooded. There's just some supply. And, you'll watch some shows that will say, hey, the supply has changed by such a huge amount that very shortly the price is going to drastically lower. Well, I'd say no. And we'll tie in some news that I wanted to cover, but this is really important. So it was a great question, but it's basically a lot of what I was going to cover at the end of the video. The market, there is more supply, but it's still unbelievably low compared to what it once was. So now you have yards, let's say a 200 unit yard is now going to be probably having about a fifth, 40 vehicles, a fifth of what they once had, maybe a fourth of what they once had. And maybe if they're in a market that, and especially for vehicles that people are going to be more affected if there's a change in the economy, so lower priced vehicles, maybe they will have, a third of what they once had. But the supply is still relatively low. Now, on the used side of things, it's very, very differently. The used side of things, a lot of people have yards that are full. Carvana, completely overloaded with vehicles, but they're keeping their prices high. And I mentioned that at the beginning of the video, I talked about good dealers versus, good dealers, smart dealers, and bad dealers. Well, a bad dealer, I think, if they're doing business in a manner that I think isn't very productive for themselves nor for the customer, what they're going to do is they're going to say, no, I bought it at X price. I need to sell it at more than that price. So even if they paid too much for the vehicle, they're saying, you know what? No, I'm just going to sell it when it's the right time, when I can get a buyer willing to pay that amount. Now, the problem is if enough dealers do this in a given area, or a large enough of an area, this is why you hear people, and this is happening. You hear people saying, well, in my area, prices haven't gone down. They're still through the roof. They're still over MSRP on the new, and there's still these crazy high prices on the used. Well, eventually, those dealers are going to be in a situation like Carvana. You can, the people you owe money to, you can push them off to the side long enough saying, hey, here's a little bit, leave me alone, and still have your prices high. But eventually, they're going to have to bring those prices down. However, smart dealers have already brought them down. From 2022, I can tell you, July, prices dropped. I saw, in my local yard, they don't want to collect them. They're not a museum. They're not there for the purpose of collecting vehicles, and they know that sometimes they're going to make money and sometimes they're going to lose money. So, the used salespeople get told, you know what, you're going to have to eat your socks maybe for a little bit. Don't worry, we'll clear this up within a month or two. Everything gets dropped $1,000 to $3,000. And then units start moving. Why? Because you're mentally, this is what it looks like to a customer. Hey, that dealer, they're good people. They dropped their prices when no one else is dropping their prices. So that's what happens mentally. As a business, you're dropping your prices before everyone else. You gain the credibility of being either smart or kind, but really it's smart, because what's going to happen is you're going to move that inventory and you're going to then buy inventory at the correct price. Because dealers that say, no, I'm not lowering my price, well, they're not buying vehicles at auction. And right now at auction, my Bronco, $11,000 less than 3 months ago. At auction, my 2019 F-150 Raptor. I've got, the mathematical proof. When I look at my computer screen, I'm like, it was averaging this price this month, and then this price, and then this price, and then this price. Oh, it's gone down $10,000. So you take a loss, you take a hit on your current inventory that you paid too much for, you make happy customers, and you replace it with inventory that is now at the right price. Everyone gets a good deal. You survive as a business. You serve well your community, and that's what you need to do. So that's why it can be an excellent time to buy a vehicle. If you can find one of these dealers, you just need to find one of these dealers that is, smart and wants to treat people right. Treating people right means selling things at the correct price. So, and the dealers that sold over MSRP, those are the ones that, following their, but this is what the market says it's worth. Well, one thing you can have in your tool belt is tell them, hey, look, you sold vehicles for over MSRP. So now on this used vehicle, I expect to get it at much less than what you had it for sale 2 months ago. You've had that for sale for 3 months. You can see this usually on, Auto Trader. Different sites will tell you how long something has been on sale for, and if it's had price decreases and how much in price decreases. If they haven't lowered your price and that just happens to be the color you want and the model and the equipment that you want, tell them your vehicle's been for sale for 3 months, 4 months. You haven't dropped your price. The market's gone down. I only want that vehicle if you sell it to me at the correct price. You guys made money before. Well, now you're gonna have to take a hit on that vehicle. And if they aren't willing to take a hit on that vehicle, it's time to walk away. That's when you need to walk away and find a dealer that's got this priced at the right price. How do you know if they've priced it at the right price? Well, you can be a member of, I like the YAA guys, Ray and Zach. You can be a member of their YAA website. It gives you the tools to know what the correct price of something is. Auto Trader, for example, or Auto Hebdo in our area, but Auto Trader will tell you, this is average market price, above market price, or, this is $3,000 below market price. Hey, that's good. If it's below market price, it's the correct price. It's the new price, because not everyone is lowering their prices at the right time, but smart dealers will lower the prices right now. I know locally, my dealer did it in July. They did it again in October, somewhat, and then a big drop in November. You don't want to have that old inventory that you paid for on old prices sitting around in your yard. It's like a good real estate agent will tell you, hey, your house, it didn't sell when it was worth, let's say, whatever, 500,000. Now the market says your house is worth 430. Do you want to sell your house? And if the answer is yes, you advertise it for 430. If you want to collect your house and continue to live there, you leave it at 500,000. You dream big and say, hopefully one day, hey, congratulations. So, oh, cool, jump pick. The wifey got a build. Congratulations. Wow. So you're going to be in our situation. If you have a trade, you're going to say, hey, my trade went down. So what do you do when your trade's gone down? Well, honey, here's an argument for me taking the lightning. And it doesn't mean I will, but here's an argument for, taking that vehicle you ordered in. The market is talking about new prices overall going down 5%. So throughout 2023. Now, whether you're looking at Auto Solutions or you're looking at, I read Auto Solutions, JP Morgan, Auto Forecast Solutions, these different companies, but overall, they're pretty much saying maybe up to maximum 5% decrease on the new, but that the used market could drop 10 to 20%. So here's one way to look at it. Our Bronco and our Raptor could be worth 10 to 20% less by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Whereas the new is going to go up it is only maybe going to go down by about 5%. And really all that means is things no longer being sold over MSRP. But the MSRP itself is going to increase almost certainly throughout the year. So it almost makes the argument that, well, the Lightning right now, if you or whatever vehicle you're looking at, a Toyota, a Honda, if you can get it at an MSRP, but you're thinking, well, my trade's worth less. Well, your trade's really only worth less if you bought it during the pandemic high used prices. If you bought it before, don't worry. Basically what happened is the pandemic blew prices up by about 30% on the used side. Now they've gone down by about 20%. Max 25%. So used is still, I'd say, slightly above, used values are still slightly above historical norms. So it's not a bad time. It's only a bad time, for us. We bought the Raptor at a high price. Or if you bought a Bronco over MSRP, then it's also a bad time to sell it. Now, did you have any questions? You kind of kicking me, so I'm thinking maybe...
sorry. Yeah, we had another question here. It's more about the Bronco. So what are your thoughts about when Bronco order banks will open?
Bronco order banks probably, I've been saying for a while, maybe January, but likely February. That's what Ford was indicating at. Ford does have a tendency sometimes to push things back. Right now, the unofficial talk is February. We'll have to wait and see. But if the unofficial talk is February, it means they might delay it a little because they haven't announced yet that it's going to open up. Normally, they would do that a few weeks prior. So now it's starting to look maybe more like March or April. So a little bit of news, but just before we cover any other questions, a little bit of news. 2024 Ford F-150. If that vehicle interests you, do keep in mind the 2024 is going to get some, slight refreshing, but the screen is going to be very similar to the screen in F-150, Lariat, or Platinum. So it's going to be large and long. So if you like having a really big screen in your truck, you're going to get it out of the 2024 F-150. So that's pretty cool. Now, talking about the F-150, pretty cool. Ford is actually, talking about the Lightning. Ford wants to get up to 2 million EVs by 2026. So they're not done announcing new models. And don't be stressed with the fact that, we all know that in the States, Ford is working with SK to produce batteries, and now it's in Turkey, they're not going to be working with SK. That doesn't mean the association is done permanently. It's just for that one battery factory in Turkey. They're going to be working with LG, so it'll be kind of interesting. I think it's great when a manufacturer works with more than one supplier, because then you can kind of really know who's the better supplier overall to work with. And in situations where, there's constraints for whatever reason, because the supplier says, yeah, we promised you whatever it is, a million batteries. Here's 500,000 for the year. Too bad, so sad. We can't do anything about it. Well, when you're already working with someone else, you can turn to that other, you can turn to LG and say, hey, you think you get us 500,000 extra batteries for the year? And then they might say, oh, no, we can only get you an extra 200,000. Then if you work with a third supplier, well, then the great news is maybe they can provide you with an extra 200,000. And then that disruption can barely be noticed. So I think that's very important, and that's not what happened with microchips or airbags. Airbags, 3 suppliers globally. So if one has a major issue, so many models are affected. Now, talking about recalls, Ford is the big winner this year. 65 recalls, 8.6 million people affected by these recalls, and this will lead some YouTubers to conclude, don't you ever buy a Ford right now.
Is that true?
Those facts are true, but I don't agree with the conclusion, because the conclusion can be correct. But Ford, keep in mind, does a lot of recalls for check the gas tank. It could have been painted incorrectly. We want to make sure the thing's going to last, 25 years. It can, they did a fuel pump recall back in 2013 on the Fusion MKZ. It was because way down the road, maybe it would cause some serious problems. Well, they wanted to be cautious. And the funniest recall that I've seen recently is there's now currently a restriction on delivering certain models of Lincolns, and I mean all Corsairs, all, I think, Aviators, if I recall correctly. And this is so serious. Oh boy, I would never buy a Ford or a Lincoln. I'm being sarcastic. The seatbelt, when you plug it in, if you forget to plug it in, there needs to be a chime for 3 minutes. 3 seconds. And the chime doesn't quite make it to 3 seconds. So it's a little premature, the chime. And now Ford is like, don't deliver, because, this is, of course, a security feature. So believe you me when I say that laws are excessive on vehicles. Laws cause the prices of vehicles to be quite a bit more expensive than if the vehicle just went, forward, back, and reverse. They need to meet certain safety standards, and some of those safety standards are a 3-second chime instead of a 2-second chime. All Terrain Nation, howdy, my friend. Thank you very much for making it. Dave and Kelly, we love your show, so thank you very much for making it in tonight. Good to see you, my friend. So yeah, 2-second, it's between 2 and 3 seconds, the chime. It doesn't quite make it a full 3-second chime. The Symphonic Orchestra of either Chicago or Detroit actually made 30-some chimes for Lincolns, and I guess that one, they cut them off just a little too quick, and now those vehicles can't be delivered. So at the end of the year, you're going to hear reviews from people saying, don't ever buy a Ford because they have the most recalls. Well, recalls are sometimes really silly. And this recall shouldn't take too long to fix. They don't need to call back the whole orchestra to say, okay, play this chime for a little bit longer. It's just the programming. They cut the programming off just a little too shy. So yeah, some recalls are ridiculous. Some are just, forced safety measures by the government. And some recalls are really serious. And some recalls will lead me to say, do not buy that model.
Yeah, as we spoke in a few videos before, if it's not a big security recall, it's not that bad at the same time. and
Now,
it's easy to fix.
yes. Now, a bit of a serious recall was about, your Expedition or your Navigator. Some people were told don't park it too close to your house. There could be a fire. That was serious. But Ford got onto that before, the government cracked down on them for hiding it for years, for example. That happens at certain manufacturers. Now, I did promise you a little bit of Toyota talk. Toyota, they're a good company. And I would expect under their current leadership, companies aren't good forever. They're good for time periods depending on who's leading them. Currently at Toyota, I believe they have good leadership, and I believe they're going to do a recall on the cable of the Toyota RAV4 Prime. Now the Toyota RAV4 Prime, they have not supplied the market with nearly enough of these vehicles, and actually how many they've supplied is rather quite pathetic. And that's why some dealers had a 5-year wait for these. And their distribution was pretty pathetic too, because some dealers could be at a 6-year wait for a RAV4 Prime, whereas it could be available in another region. So like, in Calgary here in Canada, they like their cowboy vehicles, like F-150 Raptors and whatnot. So they're big truck people. Well, they're getting a lot of these RAV4s, so you could actually possibly find one even on a lot or get them quickly. But in Quebec, where EVs are and plugins are really popular, 6-year wait. That distribution's getting fixed, but at the end of the day, Toyota wasn't building enough of them, and I wonder if this happens to do with the cable, because the cable was corroding. This rarely happens, but I do believe that they outsource that cable. Generally, if Toyota builds something, it's pretty solid, but that cable is outsourced. I'm quite positive on that. And it was corroding. And unfortunately, some dealers were having their clients pay $5,000 or $6,000 for that cable. Now, if Toyota, two things that's wrong with this. Whether you're buying something from a dealer or whether you're doing warranty at a dealer, a good dealer, you won't have to fight for a good price. At a good dealer, you won't have to fight for something to be warranted. Not a very bad dealer. I've come across personally, myself, I've come across friends, family, and contacts who call me and they're like, I'm having a situation where my dealer is telling me that this isn't covered. And I tell them, call the manufacturer, call the customer helpline, and then they find out what I suspect. It's actually covered. The dealer made the claim. They're going to take that money, but they're also going to charge you. So they're double dipping. Don't double dip your chip, folks. There's a whole Seinfeld episode on how it's wrong to double dip your chip. Well, if you're a dealer, don't double dip your chip on your darn clients. It's just so unethically wrong. It's theft. It's immoral, and it's just horrible. And I don't want to get too worked up about this because I am getting worked up. But I've had friends and contacts. Contacts tell me, contacts ask me for help, and I've helped contacts and friends. And in the end, the manufacturer's like, no, basically on the helpline, they're like, no, we're telling you this is covered. Basically, let me get off the phone. You're covered. Why are you complaining? So you need to stay kind, patient, but assertive. And I had told them, be prepared, be super assertive. I told many people, be super assertive on the phone. No, my dealer is not covering me. They're making me pay for this. I suspect you're paying them, but they're making me pay. Can you please contact the dealer? I'm being robbed. And because they use those words, manufacturer contacts the dealer. Dealer gets whatever punishment they get, but in the end, all that matters is they got their fix. So Toyota fans, if there's any of you watching, your cable, if it wasn't covered, push on your dealer. It should be covered. And when there's a recall, well then, it's great. Toyota is going to send a letter, an email, and a letter to those clients saying, hey, your cable could be defective. Go get it checked. If it's defective, you will be covered. Well, then they've got a letter from the manufacturer saying, I'm covered. So they're going to go back to the dealer and probably have more lies told to them. But this is why being prepared, polite, but assertive will get the job done. So right now, you can definitely shop your dealer still. I made my video on don't be fooled, 10 things, something like 10 things to know when you go to your dealer, or 10 tools. That's still very relevant. One of the big tools really is be assertive, know what you want, know what the right price is, and come prepared. No, like this is the internet price. This is what I'm paying, and be willing to walk away from a deal. But right now, whether it's warranty work or buying a vehicle, can be an excellent time to buy a vehicle. And right now, anyways, we're ordering vehicles for the most part. And if you order a vehicle, it's going to come in when? 3 months to a year, depending the model and the manufacturer, maybe more. And a lot of the people saying absolutely don't buy a vehicle right now, even though 3 months ago they were saying wait 3 months and it'll be an amazing time to buy a vehicle. Well, now they're telling you absolutely don't buy a vehicle and wait another minimum 4 months. Well, that just means go order now, but be prepared. Watch my 10 things to know when you're buying a vehicle. So be prepared, make sure that they sign on the price, sign on your build so you know you're getting the correct build, because a lot of people get the wrong vehicle delivered to them. The manufacturer gets built, but that's just the salesperson you did business with. They put in the order incorrectly, or there's miscommunication between the two of you. Sometimes people change their mind 12 times on the same item. Oh, I'll take it. I'll take it off. I'll take it. I'll take it off. Then they call. This is why it's important, if you're a dealer, protect yourself as well. As a consumer, protect yourself and have your sheet, have them sign it. And dealers, if you make a change for a client, and before you put in the order or change the order, say, sir, madam, please sign right here, review and sign. Well, this is what we're going to build you now, so you keep a copy. Then when the vehicle comes in, if they say, that's not the vehicle ordered, I wanted this, this, and that, because they're remembering different parts of the conversation you had with them, you can say, well, this is the vehicle window sticker, which I'll sell it to you at, or whatever promotions are going on. So know what the promotions are when you ordered versus the promotions when it comes in. And then say, this is what you signed you wanted. They're identical. So that way you're not that, bad, unethical person trying to say that the factory, the brand, the manufacturer built it wrong. You're burning a brand's reputation when you just didn't communicate very well with the person you're supposed to be serving. Always keep in mind, you need to serve yourself if you're buying, and if you're in the service industry, you need to be serving the people you're supposed to be serving. All right, so one actually serious recall taken care of, but Expedition and Navigators potentially catching fire. It was resolved, but really cool news. Your brother-in-law has a Ford Expedition Stealth Edition. And the Ford Expedition Stealth Edition is very cool. It's got a great look. It's got the black with little red shoots of red here and there. It looks aggressive, but it's also really fast. Ford Authority talked about this, and they used the numbers from one of the major sources that I actually really like, and I think it was Car and Driver. I love how Car and Driver tests vehicles. They're very consistent with their variables and whatnot. But the Ford Authority article says faster than a Raptor, and then it says, no, really, a Raptor R. It's not faster than a Raptor R. I'm going to correct them. The numbers are actually faster than your current Raptor with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost. Makes sense. Our Raptor has 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. The Expedition Stealth Edition with the performance pack and all this, lots of power, and actually 440 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque, so very similar to that Raptor, but it's accelerating from 0 to 60 miles per hour in I don't have my glasses anymore, 4.9 seconds, whereas the Raptor is doing it in 5.2 seconds. So faster than a Raptor, yes, but not faster than a Raptor R. I like the Expedition, and I'm happy that they worked out that problem. That's what recalls are for. Her brother-in-law would make it. Yes, it is my brother, absolutely. So we talked about probably RAV4 Prime, major issue with that cable. If it corrodes, that means you don't have the battery power anymore. And if your dealer tries to tell you that you're going to pay for it, then you've got really serious issues. That's not Toyota. Toyota being bad. Toyota, actually, the manufacturer, is going to cover you if the dealer puts in the claim, the photos, and does the work correctly, and then also gives you that cable instead of charging you that cable and the job. So be prepared when you go to the dealer. Not everyone is fair in any business. So let's see. So JP Morgan, they were the ones that precisely, their exact numbers is that the new market would go down by no more than 5% in 2023. So don't expect MSRP prices to go down. So if you're already getting a price at MSRP, you're getting it at the best price this year. So if you're shopping a new vehicle and you read that, it's easy to think, oh, new prices are going to go down by 5%. I'm going to wait. If you wait to the end of the year, prices, if inflation's at, 7 or 8% again, the price of these vehicles is going to go up 4 to 8%, the price to the amount of inflation. So that, if you can get it at MSRP right now, that is a great purchase on the new. Now, just in case, there's a few models on the market right now where actually there's incentives, there's rebates on them. Always build a vehicle online and see what your particular model and year, so choose the correct year and the correct model, and see what the internet incentives are, because dealers can try to sell you at a higher interest rate to make money, and they can also, if there's a $2,000-$3,000 incentive, they can keep it. Right now in the United States, an F-150, you can get $1,000 rebate on that. But if you ordered, keep this in mind, if you ordered and you're like, oh wow, this month, keep in mind, this month, there's $1,000 rebate on an F-150, you have to take this month's interest rate. So if the interest rate's gone up by 1%, if you're dealing with someone, a good sales consultant, they're going to do the math for you. And if they're really good in math and logical, they're going to ask you, how long are you going to keep your vehicle? Because let's say you have 1% interest, and over the course of your 84-month loan, that's going to cost you $3,500 or $4,000 in added interest. It's only going to cost you that if you keep it to 84 months. If you like changing every year or two, well, you need to use division, find out what the actual cost of the interest is monthly or by year. If you change it every year, well, then you're obviously probably better, you would be better to take the $1,000 rebate. So you need to make that calculation. You can't mix and match promotions. You can't have the price from back when you ordered with the promotion of today. If you go with the promotion today, you're going to pay it today's MSRP, which has probably increased, and you're going to get today's interest rates, which guaranteed on pretty much any model across the market have also increased. Now, I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I think, is there any questions we want to cover before we head out?
Yes, we speak a lot about the priority 10, but what if somebody has 11 or 15? Because I have these two questions.
Okay.
So 11 and 15, is it bad or is it good?
Not at all. If you're 15 and your dealership put everyone from 15 to 19, or just kept things as they are in the system, 19 can be a good priority code. If the dealer gave everyone 19, well, it's good for you if you're a new order, and it's very unfair to you if you're a carryover from 2022 converted to a 2023 order. So 11 is good. That means your dealer, of the carryovers, you probably weren't quite the oldest ones, or maybe you're a new order and your dealer decided to give all the carryovers a 10, which means you're not differentiating between some that were ordered 6 months apart, which doesn't make sense to me. But what does make sense to me is 11 is still a good number and 15 isn't bad at all. You're probably given a really good number for a new order because you're morning one order or first day. So they might have decided to put day one 15s, day two 16s, and gone it up, done it like that. And do keep in mind, the higher you go, the worse it is, and anything over 19 is very problematic. If you have a 20, you're in serious trouble. If you have anything over a 20, and do recall, I've got lists that I've been going through recently because some people were just put, some models, Ford did the switch automatically, but then coded at 99. And if you're 99, you're never gonna get built. You're not going to be a high scorer like Wayne Gretzky, who was 99. You're going to be a 0 and not a hero. So keep in mind, know your priority code if you're with Ford. And if you're if you're 20 and above, you need to go talk to your dealer and have that changed right away. And if they don't know how, you need to talk to them, pull the care and ask to speak to the manager. And if the manager doesn't know how, then you're just at the wrong dealer, and hopefully they'll realize something's wrong and they'll call the number that's at the bottom of their sheet that they get every single week. But if they don't know how these priority codes work, it's quite possible that they also don't know how to read or don't want to read and don't look at their emails. Ford does a really good job of communicating with dealers to make sure the businesses get run correctly. But hey, sometimes I go to certain fast food restaurants and get really sick, even though there's supposed to be really strict norms. Not everyone follows the rules, folks. Try to do business with people that do.
Okay, another question. Do we expect a full electric Maverick yet?
Yet, no.
No.
Do I expect one? Absolutely. Ford, and this is one of my news points I didn't focus enough on in the video, and it's so important. Ford wants 2 million electric vehicles floating around being produced by the end of 2026. So that doesn't mean in 2026 at the end of the year they're going to say, hey, we produced 2 million. But it does mean, the wording means that the last month of 2026 they'll be able to say, hey, now we're on schedule to make 2 million per year. That means more models are on the way. Ford has promised more models. Everything's written in the sky that there's another EV truck coming on the way, but it's most likely going to be the Ranger, and we're going to see it as a plug-in before we see it as an electric. I still think the next electric full electric truck is going to be after 2026, and I'd say if we get a plug-in Ranger for 26 or sooner, or a plug-in Bronco, well, I'd say it's pretty likely. I'm definitely thinking plug-in based on what's being said, what's being tested, or appears to be tested, and what accidentally gets leaked and said in conversations to the public and to the media. We're looking at a plug-in Ranger before 2026, and I hope they do that for the Bronco. But then when you look at the Bronco being mid-fresh for 2024, it makes me smile and think maybe for 2024 we get that plug-in news next year. Plug-in news. Hoping it comes. The plug-in Bronco is accessible, orderable with that 2024 mid-model refresh. A weird mid-model point, and it might be one of two refreshes really, because they're fully changing the model according to Auto Forecast Solutions for 2030. But we'll find out. Stay tuned for many years to come. We'll keep you updated on that.
Yeah. Another question that we have from John Pick. If we had a build date for my Maverick, so yes, if everything goes well, it's next week. You said no delays till that?
The 13th? It's this week, hun.
Oh, this week!
It's the 9th. We're supposed to go to Florida soon. We need to plan that out, otherwise we're going to be couch surfing the whole time. Now, it's really cool. Ridgeview actually has offered us to stay in his guest room. So thank you very much. And because we're having trouble finding the right place that we can stay with the poodles, we really appreciate that. We're not just about more cars and more power. We're also about more poodles. And more power and more poodles. Gotta love that poodle power.
And we have a question related to that. Sorry, I'm searching the one that I was looking at. So, do you know if Maverick Hybrid will be built next week too?
I wish I knew. Scheduling. They're going to be built. Yes, they're getting built. The factory almost never shuts down for a whole week unless something serious in the world globally is going around. But you mean to talk about scheduling. What I often will talk about in my lives is what is getting scheduled this week. Very limited scheduling on the Maverick last week from my recollection. But a lot of models weren't getting scheduled. So it was easy go at the office, I guess. They get their holidays too. But the scheduling is done by those white collars that we talked about, that Ford laid off 8,000 of in the last little while. But I'll know. Normally I would have already had it. And actually I can go check my email to see if it's come in. I might have to throw the glasses on for this, but we'll see if I can survive it. Now, for that scheduling, I have not gotten the scheduling email yet. It usually is out by Monday, 5 or 6. Sometimes it ends up coming out on Tuesday, so I'm probably going to get it tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. But Tim's going to be talking about what scheduling, but likely they did very limited scheduling on the Maverick, and didn't schedule most models. I wouldn't be surprised if they announce that for this week, that the announcement for this week is that they're going to be scheduling out, most models now that they're full power back at the office. No, nothing.
Nothing for now.
Nothing for now. I can do. I don't have my glasses. I think yes, I can do a search and search through, but no, nothing. Nothing for now. Sorry, folks.
And we have 3 last questions. So Rob S wants to know how we could find his priority code, where we can see it.
Unfortunately, only your dealer knows your priority code, and only your dealer even knows your order code. And you need your order code. So if you do get an email or your dealer says, here's your serial number, your VIN, vehicle identification number, you need your order code and your serial code to then track the vehicle as obsessively as I do.
Good. And Tom Dinder wants to know what vehicle is replacing the Edge.
The vehicle replacing the Edge. Still don't know, and they could throw us. We have seen a refreshed, a remodeled Edge being played around, just like we have for the Fusion, but we don't get the Fusion. China's getting the Fusion, so we'll have to see if we get a remodeled Edge, or if that's only going to go to China or to Asia. And if we don't get the Edge, well, you could say a lot already has replaced the Edge, because we have the Bronco Sport now, but we have the EcoSport even that replaced the Fiesta and Focus, but the Edge, the Escape at the same time was always a Focus Escape platform. Ford has already thrown a whole bunch of new models at us, so the Edge could just disappear from our market. They're not necessarily going to say this is kind of its replacement. And the Edge has been a very reliable name. It's been good to the brand. It's been solid. I don't know why they would necessarily replace it with something named something else. I would think it would make, unless they bring it out electric and they just want to completely change the name, so they drop it and replace it with an electric vehicle with a whole new name. But I'd suspect more that I'd still suspect that maybe we just get a complete refresh, or it gets dropped completely. And not refresh, sorry, new model or completely dropped. I don't think it's going to be the same presentation we got with the EcoSport. The EcoSport was basically presented as, here is your Fiesta replacement. People aren't hot for little cars anymore, so here's a little SUV. That's how the EcoSport was sold to the public. I don't think the Edge is going to get, we're going to get that on in regards to the Edge.
Good. And for the last question for tonight, M. Peugeot wants to know if we know if there will be some plug-in Raptor. Soon.
Bronco Raptor, that's also plug-in. I don't think soon. When we do get a plug-in announcement for the Bronco, I'm really expecting that to run off the 2.3 liter. Folks, the 2.3 liter is a good engine. We're not seeing, we're not seeing any major carbon buildup issues with it, even though it is only direct injection, and it kind of bugs me. I always preferred the 2.7 liters to both of them that we picked out, because it was both port injection and direct injection. By the way, direct injection, I've covered this in different videos when I go into my technical talks, but they do create quite a bit of carbon buildup. If I recall, that can cause valve issues. But anywho, generally, it leads to major issues for the vehicle. But I'd expect a plug-in 2.3 liter. But M. Peugeot, you bring up a really good point. They could bring in a 2.7 liter power boost. It wouldn't be a plug-in, but it is pretty easy to just throw on an extra electric motor, like they did with the 3.5 liter. So yes, maybe and then it would also maybe help the Edge be a little more viable, that you have an Edge with a 2.7 liter available and electric motor. So if I recall correctly, it's like a 98 kilowatt motor and a 1.1 battery, 1.1 kilowatt hour battery. So they could throw that on the 2.7 liter, and that is the type of surprise that could come out of nowhere. Just like the power boost, the 3.5 liter power boost, it wasn't, you could say, it's a big deal. It's great. It's incredible in town, doing 10 liters per 100 kilometers instead of 14. So really great fuel economy in town, but then on the highway, not much of a difference. Overall, not a huge splash. So those type of things we hear a little less about than, let's say, when there's something like a plug-in version coming along. Big impact, big splash, more leaks here and there. People's accidentally saying things they're not supposed to say. And then just a lot of sometimes, how do you call it? Insider talk. So and so talk to such engineer, whatever it may be, someone that's working somewhere near. Heck, can even be someone who's cleaning the room where the motor is, and they kind of figure like, hey, that looks like, I know what that motor looks like. I know what that motor is, and hey, what's this battery that's plugged next to it? Now, 1.1 kilowatt battery doesn't make much of a splash. It's not very big, but when you've got something that's plug-in like the Escape, and it's a 14.4 kilowatt hour battery add on to a motor, well then whether it's the engineer, the custodian, whomever it may be, it makes for quite a bit of excitement and quite a few more leaks. Even sometimes leaks come from heads of companies to the media. Sometimes they leak things by accident, like one of the Volkswagen heads did when talking about a plug-in Amarok / Ranger. We're sorry about the sound this evening. I'm going to put in the description the exact numbers and where you can get them. Basically, if you go to Maverick Truck Club, they've got the 2022 numbers for Ford and Bronco 6G. They've got the Bronco numbers, but both those lists are actually provided by Ford to the dealers. And in those lists, they have a summary for the entire year. So you'll see we got a lot more Mavericks than we expected. We felt like they were only building like 40,000 of these. I think at times I said that I figured they'd build about 80 at 83,000. You can get the exact numbers for the Maverick. And the Bronco, they made 139,000. So let's focus on the future, focus on the positive. Ford can make 2023 a fantastic Maverick year and make those Mavericks rain from the sky in cutting back Bronco Sport production. And they've actually told dealers that that's their goal. So the microphone's fantastic. I promise you this room is awful. We don't even like having a conversation right before, and that's why we started this live late. Thank you for those that waited for us to start up.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Take care, everyone. Now I'm going to let Maddie hit that little X button. Yeah. I'm going to take the poodle here, who is eating the sound bending this evening. So if you want to just
bye, everybody.
Sign out. Take care. Wish you all more cars and more power. Hope you get your ordered vehicle real soon.